Nupur will introduce Biplab, and I can say that there is Shucheta. I have seen Shucheta Chaudhuri. Shucheta is Professor Shucheta. She is the actually professor of Jharkhand Central University, Ranchi. She is an anthropologist, and she has joined. I know KG Mathaikuti sir. Mathaikuti sir, he is a DRR professional and disaster risk reduction professional, and he was there when I met him in LWS, Lutheran World Services. Sir, is it okay?
Yes, okay, please.
Yeah. I met you there, and Nita and Jhuma, sir, you have changed the profile. So your geography has been changed. Okay. And I am admitting Paul Yela has already joined, is joining. Subhashish Datto is joining. Subhashish Datto, let him join. Nupur is the host. She is working for Sphere India Academy as well as Sphere India. And both Sphere India Academy and Sphere India are our collaborators. Paul has joined, and Nupur will give the introduction. I really don't know much about Mr. Ashutosh Dubey. Mr. Padmon Bag, I know. He is one of our Blue Community Network member. Padmon Bag is from Odisha. Sir, is it okay? Did I say the right thing? Okay. Thank you, sir. And Pavel, and there is another Mr. Jahangir Alam. They both are from Bangladesh,
and also Shimol Bishar. And
হ্যাঁ,
also Shimol Bishar.
পাভেল
Hi, good morning, everyone.
আস্তে শোনা যাচ্ছে। হ্যাঁ,
Hi, sorry to interrupt, sir. Just checking the audio with Biplab, sir. So, can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Biplab, sir? Can you
Biplab,
hear us now?
Biplab,
Yes, now
Nupur is
it is
asking
okay.
something.
Hello.
So it is okay. Ramkrishna Juardar has also joined. He is also from Barshik, from Bangladesh.
হ্যাঁ নমস্কার দাদা, নমস্কার।
নমস্কার রামকৃষ্ণ দা।
And also from Barsik, joined Borsha Gain.
Borsha Gain has joined from
Has
Bangladesh.
joined,
Yeah,
has joined. Bablu Joardar has joined from Barsik.
Okay.
And Shimul Bishar
And
joined from Barsik.
Jahangir Alam, I know he is
Yes.
from Barshik.
Yes, Jahangir Alam from
He
Barsik.
joined in last few sessions.
Thank you, Dada. Thank you, Dada.
Jacob Okumu, he has joined from Kenya. He is a nice person, and he said that he wants to learn more and join us. So he has joined. Jacob, thank you, Jacob, for joining.
Thank you so much.
Sanjay Da has joined. Sanjay Da is from EHS. So Sanjay Da is one of our is representing one of our collaborators, EHS. So, Sanjay Dai, you are most welcome. Nupur, we can start.
Sir, we'll have to wait for some time. Biplab sir is having difficulty connecting with the audio, so I'm trying to reshare the link with him. So we may have to like delay it by a couple of minutes.
How many minutes? Because the already 33 participants have joined.
Yes, but the moderator is not able to connect right now, so I'm coordinating with him. He's now going to try to connect through his phone, so I'm just sharing the link with him there. Point, let me see if it's better. Hi, Biplab sir, can you hear us now? We can't hear you. I think we just wait for sir 2-3 minutes while sir is trying to connect through his phone.
Joshua?
Okay, it's a good proposal from Sanjay Banerjee, that to announce the next webinar next, because this is fifth next webinar theme and expected date today. So expected date is 20th every month, 20th of every month it is fixed. So next webinar's theme, broad theme is on impoverishment processes. So I would request everyone to participate on that 20th of June on impoverishment processes. Okay, I would request Nupur to please start, because the others, those who have joined, they should not be actually halted.
Sure, sir. But in that case, maybe you can telephonically coordinate with Biplab sir, because I was also doing that on the sidelines. Because I think he'll have to register again through his phone to join. So if you can just, I think he's trying to join, but maybe in next couple of minutes you can try to coordinate with him. But in the meantime, I'll start with setting the context and introduction. Sir is able to join by then, that's great.
From CARN-AP, I must tell you, from CARN-AP founding members, so Sharnabh Bandyopadhyay is there, and Professor Sheikh Tawhidul Islam. Professor Sheikh Tawhidul Islam is now based in China. He is a professor there in Beihang University, and he is the co-chairperson as well as the co-convener of Climate Action Resource Network Asia Pacific. And Sharnabh Bandyopadhyay, he is also Sharnabh Bandyopadhyay, Biplab Ketan Pal, Professor Sheikh Tawhidul Islam, and Dr. Aniruddha Dey. We four are the founding members of Climate Action Resource Network Asia Pacific, and all of us are here. Join. Okay. Yeah. Nupur, please.
Hi. Sir. Hi, sir. Hope you're able to hear us now. Great, great. So sorry for the inconvenience. I think the registration is a long process. Next time we'll be sure to at least have some direct links created for speakers and moderator. Right. So I'll just quickly start the session. Firstly, a very good afternoon to everyone, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the webinar 4 of our series of these webinars on advancing climate action, community resilience, and knowledge collaboration in Asia Pacific region. So today's session on climate change resilience, behavioral pathways on adaptation, it focuses on important and yet often unexplored dimension of climate sorry. I'm sorry, I just admitted some of the participants were joining. Yes, dimension of climate resilience, human behavior. So as climate risk increases, we see the need to, yeah. So as climate risks are increasing, resilience is not just about infrastructure, but it's also about how individuals and communities respond to these challenges. And behavioral adaptation, it basically influences how communities prepare for disasters, manage natural resources, and adjust their lifestyles and livelihoods to these. So this session, which is being hosted by Sphere India in collaboration with PRISM CARN-AP, along with our regional knowledge partners, is part of our ongoing efforts to advance dialogue and collaboration at the intersection of climate action, disaster risk, and resilience building. So just briefly talking about how the flow of the session will go. So while I'm just setting the context, I'll also take an opportunity to introduce our speakers and the moderator. And then we'll have presentations from Dr. Paul, followed by Dr. Alec. And then we'll have some open discussions. So our moderator, we have Mr. Biplab Ketan Paul, who is a globally recognized development professional with over 3 decades of experience and in climate resilience, governance, and innovation and policy. He's an innovator of Bhumru, an award-winning climate adaptation solution that has empowered over 1 million vulnerable people across Asia and Africa. And joining us is Dr. Paul White, who is an applied science and engineering expert with 25 years of international experience, leading technical assistance program on climate action, renewable energy, and sustainable development across multiple countries with extensive engagement with global institutions, including UN agencies and the World Bank. And after that, we'll be joined by Dr. Alec, who is acting CEO of Zambia's National Institute for Scientific and Industrial Research, a distinguished environment policy expert, and an international climate negotiator representing Zambia and the African group of negotiators under the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. So I take this opportunity to thank all of the speakers for joining us today and our moderator. And we are looking forward to this engaging and insightful discussion. So without further delay, I now invite our moderator, Mr. Biplab Ketan Paul, to lead today's session. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nupur. Thanks a lot. Hi, guys. I think I could not see many of the faces, but I am sure all of you have a great time together. So my task is a little bit easier today because I have two stalwarts in the developmental and the climate segment, especially Alec and Dr. Paul.
Biplab, if you need to speak a bit loudly.
Okay. So can you hear me now? Because I have there are some technical issues. So I have to shift from two systems to my home phone. So I'm coming from my phone. So might be a little bit audio problem should be there. So please forgive me.
Yeah, it's fine.
So first of all, good evening to everyone from Indian perspective and my friends from Africa. Good morning. My work is quite easier because I have two stalwarts. So my task is to listen and facilitate everyone to ask as many questions as possible to improve their knowledge as well as sharing the expertise and knowledge. One. Second, I had a long discussion. There's an anecdote before going to this session is that I had a long discussion with Dr. Aniruddha De, and I was thinking, what is going forward? Session is very interesting. Sphere India is organizing this session is praiseworthy. With our experience and our operation in Africa, where we have 8 offices in 8 African nations, especially working with the water and climate with the youth and the gender under the United Nations, UNFCCC as well as CTCN. I was thinking that we have a vast or treasure island of knowledge over here as the participants. They are cutting across India, Bangladesh, Southeast Asia, East Asia, and Africa. Number one, to learn from each other. And number two, how we can put our effort to help other. So each of you, when you are listening the sessions, also come forward if you like to replicate some of the learning from Professor Paul and Professor Alik in India. At the same time, why don't you share your work, which can be very interesting for Sierra Leone or Professor Alik, and to make it happen in their country? A. B. Government of India has a program now called South-South Technology Transfer, where I am as a part of the jury under the Prime Minister Office of Government of India. So I will suggest and I will request all of you to think forward. If you can come up with an idea which is doable and scalable and executable within a certain time frame, then Government of India can be approached, or maybe multilateral donor can be approached. But yes, Government of India is already having a portfolio for that. Number two. Number three, yesterday and today, I was organizing the Globalizer program for Ashoka of across 108 countries for the best innovators across India, South Asia, and other countries. There are a good number of people from Africa also participated. Within this session, whatever the innovative ideas are coming up, can we take it and make it available for youth of young innovators from Africa and then scale something ahead? These are the three objectives I am having from this session, and I'm open to all of you to come up with more and more ideas. Fine, I'm stopping here and no more talking. We are here to listen stalwarts. So, Dr. Paul, can I invite you for the presentation, sir?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. I see we have something in common. If you notice, your last name is my first name. It's good to meet you. And of course, it's a joy to be on this platform. Small things can translate into big things. I got to be invited here, actually, I should tell you, by a classmate of mine whom we studied some 26 years ago. We are no longer young, even if we try to look young. Some 26 years ago, I met Papa in class, and it's also very interesting that I am sharing the stage today with my classmate Alik from Zambia. We haven't seen each other since that time, and it's a pleasure that we could share a platform together. Um, I feel also very honored that I am on this platform. The Sphere India network is a very big network. I have been reading around to see that it has a network of members spanning through UN organizations, government institutions, CSOs, NGOs, and so on. And so it's very impressive that even with that kind of network, you are still trying to scale beyond India and to look at, these issues that we are acting on locally, to look at them as global issues. And indeed, they are global issues. But of course, actions are taken at the local level. I'm particularly also very thrilled about the topic itself. We are in an era where we have to bridge between the environmental shocks um, and the cultural shift and social behavior that is pushed upon us because uh, of climate action or climate change, and how we respond as people and as organizations who work with individuals and societies how we respond to those needs is very important. And as much as I will try as much as possible not to bring in any academic context to the topic, because this is a big discussion, I'll try to present what we are doing here in Sierra Leone to respond or to support communities to adjust their behavior or to support their behavioral change to adapt to climate change. And that's, of course, adaptation is also resilience. So I like the introduction, but my introduction doesn't really tell much what I do right now. It talks about my life in the UN, my life in the international research and development community. But I came back home some 5 years ago, and I established an NGO called the Energy Nexus Network. 10 actually was seeded from India, I should tell you, from Bangalore. So there is, yes, it's true. There is a very well-known NGO in Bangalore called Selco Foundation. I have very good relationship with the founder and CEO. And I traveled to India several times to look at their models and their ways of operations. And most of the time when we talk about the enabling environment, and people say this time, the ecosystem, the energy ecosystem, it's really the elements that are needed to make deployment of systems for development sustainable. And so they have very good models. So I went there and I studied them for quite some time. I sent also some of my young team to India, and we tried to replicate or to scale. Just depends how you call it. That's what they have been doing in India in similar geographies with similar settings. I went to villages in India and I felt I was in my village in Sierra Leone. And to see how we transpose or adapt those actions in Sierra Leone. And this is really important for this context because it's a South-South knowledge transfer and learning, which we are also trying to do today. And so that organization, we say it is a regional hub for scaling renewable energy solutions with a mission to build resilient ecosystems around renewable energy, or especially decentralized renewable energy. So that is what I do now. And the examples I will give, the actions that we have taken to support communities are based on the proof of concepts and those proof of concept that we have already scaled in some of the communities I will mention. But that is one part of me. I wear another hat. I'm also working in the Office of the President as a senior technical lead for the Climate Finance and Energy Innovation Hub within an arrangement that the President created to respond also to climate change or climate action. And he called it the Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy, and Food Security. So within that arrangement, I work as a senior technical lead and advising actually at the level of the presidency on actions to mobilize climate finance, but also how to design programs and projects that helped in adaptation and mitigation, and of course, resilience. So having said that, I now want to create the context in Sierra Leone. And for most of your viewers in India, I don't know whether you know where Sierra Leone is. It's a very small country. It's not even up to a state in India in terms of size, I would say. Maybe a district within one of your states. Only 72,000 square kilometers, but it is on the coastline. And if you want to compare the weather, it's similar to the south, I would say the southwestern part of India, with a lot of coconut trees and nice beaches and so on, but very humid. But it's a small country. We are only 8 million people, and we are here somewhere, on the edge of West Africa. So if you know where Nigeria or where Liberia, Guinea, we are somewhere there in that corner, with Guinea sitting on top of us like a cap, and then Liberia on our southeastern border, and then of course the Atlantic Ocean. But this country has seen its own share of climate change. So we are among the 10 most vulnerable countries to climate change. We've suffered floods. We have islands that are disappearing. We have communities whose livelihoods have been altered, and they have to look for alternative livelihoods. We've suffered from floods, landslides, as I mentioned, but also loss in agricultural production. And imagine this is a country that has mostly subsistence agriculture and that employs over 80% of the population in agriculture. So if you have floods, if you have landslides, if you have disappearing islands and coastal erosion, you are actually affecting livelihoods. And of course, it's also because of the coastline, it's a country with a lot of fishing communities. So we take climate change seriously and climate action seriously. So our president, in his wisdom, His Excellency, he created a whole ministry to look at just climate action. So he formed the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change during his presidency. But most important also, he created this interministerial coordination mechanism, which I mentioned earlier, the Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy and Food Security. And he appointed a leading global figure, Dr. Keller, who has held several positions within the UN, including UN Energy and also one time assistant special representative to the UN Secretary General, and also founder of Sustainable Energy for All, the global international NGO leading the SDG 7. So this entity unlocks finance. It also removes barriers and helps in interministerial coordination, especially on areas relating to climate action, food security, and renewable energy. It is under this umbrella that I am also working as Senior Technical Lead for Climate Finance and Energy Innovation. So when I come now to some of the actions that we have taken, I want to bring just some practical examples. So we have some islands, Yeliboya, Plantain Island, Banana Island, and others that are disappearing. As sea level rise, these islands, because they are low-lying islands, they are gradually going underwater. And you have populations that have lived on those islands for ages, and these populations are now forced to leave. But you know what it means. It is not so easy to leave home, right? We all have that experience. Some of us studied abroad. We stayed there for a couple of times to look for, education, but also to look for bread and income. But you feel belonged. You want to be home. So these islanders are refusing to move, even with all the risk. They've lost their drinking water supply. And now they are forced to move every day using a boat to the mainland to get drinking water and back. Because sea level is rising, the boreholes are getting saline, so the water is saline, and they can't drink it anymore and they can't use it for domestic purposes. So they have to commute with boats to the mainland to take water. And when you talk to them about leaving, they refuse. They tell you, in our local language here, if I translate it, they say, I was born here, I lived here, and I will die here. And what that means is that they are finding it very hard to change. And that change for them means to relocate. So even when they are offered places to move, they are not ready to move. They want to still stay on their islands. And then that means you have, as a government or as an NGO, you have to take measures to improve their resilience as they stay in this difficult environment. So we are also seeing coastal erosion. Our mangrove areas are eroding, and then it means also the fishing grounds where the fish breed are also being affected, and this is also leading to decline in fisheries. So what is happening now is that the government took a measure, again, to force behavior change, to ban mangrove wood cutting. So what does that mean? All livelihoods that depend on mangrove wood, which is used for cooking, because 99% of the population in Sierra Leone use firewood or charcoal to cook. There's only 1% that use modern forms of cooking when it comes to technology and fuel. So most of us, even myself, I do fuel stacking. my assistant who helps with cooking, he still uses charcoal to cook. When I'm ready to cook, sometimes I use maybe LPG gas, but generally we do a mixture of all of that. And so when you say don't cut mangroves because they affect fisheries, you're actually taking people off their source of income. And then that mangrove is also used for drying fish, for smoking fish. So it means if the fish women who smoke fish cannot get mangrove, they have to look for alternative livelihoods as well, or other ways of preserving their fish, because smoking fish is the main form of preservation here. So we are stepping in as an NGO to demonstrate that you can take people off, you can force behavior change, but then you give them alternative livelihoods. So through a project called Resilience of the Blue Economy Project, which we are doing in partnership with Goal International and Goal Sierra Leone and other NGOs, local NGOs, we are providing refrigeration with lighting solutions, solar lighting, which is a renewable form of energy in decentralized, in communities that are not connected to the grid. We are providing refrigeration and providing solar to run those refrigerators and also light up the home. So women who sell fish will no longer rely on mangrove wood to preserve their fish. And by the way, fresh fish here in Sierra Leone sells at a better price than smoked fish. So that's it's earning them more income. It's taking them off from mangrove. It also have health implications because they are no longer spending their evenings and the whole night smoking fish in an environment filled with smoke that affects their lungs and causing illnesses, but providing them with a system that is easy to operate and also they get more value for their products. But in addition, we have also recruited men who were cutting mangroves, or families who were cutting mangrove trees into the program. So for them also, we light up their home, we provide refrigeration, and we seed their businesses to start a resilient micro business in another form of livelihood. So most of them sell provisions, they sell cold drinks, they sell water, and then they move away from the mangroves, from harvesting mangroves. So these interventions are interventions that have demonstrated that it is good to force behavior change with policy and regulation, but even better to back that up by providing alternative livelihoods that can sustain businesses or that can sustain livelihoods in those communities. In addition, we've also included what we call financial resilient programs for them to help them to adapt to shocks when their businesses have financial challenges, like huge financial challenges that can affect how they run their business. For example, a family member gets sick, and you know how these things work. You are operating just above the poverty line. You are not yet above the social security line. And then you have a family member getting sick, or a child's school fees have to be paid. And then immediately you have to take money from the business to address those needs. And then what happens? You fall below the poverty line again. So to avoid those shocks, we have coalesced them into what we call village loan and savings groups. And they are running these groups themselves. They buy shares from themselves, and then they loan from that purse, and then they pay back with some marginal interest that is below the interest rate of established government institutions. This helps them to be more resilient because when they do their share out, they have money to plow back into the business or to address other needs like building a nice home or extending the home they are living in, or paying a child's university fees and so on. We hope with time we can also bring in technology, because at the moment we give them a metal box to keep the money. But we hope that because there are risks also associated with that, we want to link them with mobile money, and they are able to deposit the money through mobile money, and then hopefully connect them to established financial institutions to improve, of course, their financial resilience, which is also some form of adaptation. So these are some of the examples we have undertaken through this blue economy and resilient program. In addition, we've also now scaled a little bit to do what we call integrated energy centers. Integrated energy centers in those communities, what most people call energy business areas. So if you may think of it like a shopping mall, a small shopping mall in a village, where you have businesses all coalescing under one umbrella, and we provide something like 17 kilowatts of electricity, 24 hours, for the businesses within that umbrella. So the area becomes like a hub. Even for those who don't have shops to operate, they can come when there is electricity at night, and they have extended periods of electricity, extended period of business at night. Most of these communities, if you visit them in Sierra Leone, business hours end with the end of daylight. So by 7 o'clock in the evening, they are closed. But with electricity, they can extend their businesses up to midnight. In these energy business areas, or the integrated energy centers, we have printing shops, we have small businesses, we have people coming up to do pharmacies. Then they don't have to travel kilometers, 20, 30 kilometers to the nearest town when they need medication. We have others coming in to do small businesses like a barbing shop. Others coming in to do ice cream, and this is luxury in a village. So all of this, in our way, we do some careful selection to bring in people who otherwise would have had impact in the coastal areas, either cutting down mangroves or smoking fish and using mangrove wood, but instead now are doing other forms of productive activities that brings them income. So with these few examples, I want to go back where we started, that behavioral pathways to adaptation can be viewed as academic, but it's actually something that you can put into practice. And that what we are seeing here in Sierra Leone, and this is the value of this conversation, can be transposed. My colleague, my classmate, Alec, have similar challenges in Zambia. I'm sure Zambia is not a coastal country, but they have water bodies. They have also stress in some villages. And some of these measures that we are taking here in Sierra Leone are quite adaptive, and they can be applied in other parts of Africa. But also, because we got the learnings from India, and my colleagues in India always tell me that let's see what happens in Sierra Leone. There are probably methodologies and processes that we can also learn from. And so we exchange these ideas. We've had groups coming from Ethiopia to learn about our interventions in healthcare, which I didn't talk about, so they can also do the same. And so the value of these type of conversations, I think, can be scaled. When I shared the context and the description, and people told me, we want to join, but it's only a conversation about Southeast Asia, I told them, no, try to join. It's described like that, and maybe the organizers can think about this in future. Let's scale this beyond Southeast Asia to look at it in the South-South context. I always tell people, if you are looking for solutions in the South, you might be tempted to go to the North to look for innovation and finance. But if you want solutions that apply in the South, look for countries in the South that have similar experiences, that have already addressed those issues in some way. And if those solutions cannot fit exactly as they fit in those countries in the South, then adapt them to fit in your local context. On this note, my namesake Paul, I want to stop here and I hand over to you. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you. You are on mute.
Paul, there is a question from Snigdha
Biplab,
on the
sir,
chat
you're
box.
on mute if you're
You can
speaking.
see that.
You said there is a question from someone. Is it in the chat? Can you read the question for me, please?
So introductions, I believe that moderator will tell you about the introductions. So after the
Okay.
two presentations of the two guest speakers, there will be introductions. Yeah, thank you.
Sir, can you try to unmute yourself now?
Can I? I was muted by the host, so I could not talk actually. So can I talk now? Can I talk for 1 minute? Is okay with all of you guys? Hello.
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, Paul, thanks a lot for the fantastic presentation. But what we have thought for today's session is that let the two speakers first complete the talks, and we note down all the questions, whatever you have, and with the respective speaker with whom you have the question. Then accordingly, we can go one after another. Because time is short, 4:30 is the cutoff time. So it is now already 3:40 in Indian timing. So can we request our second speaker, Dr. Alec, over here, if you allow us to invite him? Dr. Alec?
Thank you.
Whole
Thank
stage
you.
is for you.
Thank you, Paul. And I hope I'm audible. Just confirm I'm audible.
Yes, you are perfectly audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, organizers, for this great opportunity.
Dr. Alex, should I
linking.
go ahead and share your presentation?
Let me just introduce myself, then you share the
Sure.
presentation.
Just let me know. I'm here.
Yeah, sure. So I was saying thank you very much for the organizers for affording us this opportunity. As Paul put it, we last met almost 30 years ago. Me, Paul, and Swanabu, Papa, and when we were in Netherlands doing our masters. We were small boys then, but now we're big boys in our respective countries. So I'm so grateful that we're given this opportunity to be linked. It's really a global village. Yeah, so about myself, my name is Alec Muvundika, Dr. Muvundika. I'm currently acting director for the largest research institute in Zambia, which is called the National Institute for Scientific and Industrial Research. I'm heavily involved in climate change issues. In fact, as I speak now, I'm in Bonn, I'm in Germany. I sit on the supervisory body for the Article 6 mechanism, that was established by the Paris Agreement. So this is a 6.4 mechanism. So this mechanism is actually replacing what we used to call as a CDM previously, the carbon markets. So this is a compliance, part of the Paris Agreement, and we're busy making the rules. So we're having a one-week meeting here in Bonn. So I'm really heavily involved in climate change issues, both at the national level. I chair the Zambian DNA, but I also am one of the lead negotiators, representing the African group. So coming to the topic at hand. So I come from Zambia, as you all know, which is located in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. It's just above Zimbabwe. In fact, we used to be one country before Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Malawi, before both the three countries got independence. So in terms of climate change, well, the country is heavily, impacted by the adverse impacts of climate change. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, we actually went through a very, very punishing drought to the extent that we would go for 10 hours without electricity. As you are aware, Zambia, the energy is highly dependent on hydro.
कल जो
basically-
एक डॉक्यूमेंट दिखाना है ना एक और
most of our energy is, hydro. So in fact, 80% of our
Dr. Alec, you went on mute.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So I was saying our energy sector relies heavily on hydroelectricity, which is at a mess of weather or climate. 2 years ago, we underwent a very punishing drought to the extent that would go for 10 hours without electricity. And the implication of that were catastrophic because people need energy, so if the traditional energy is not being, applied or supplied, they'll go for an alternative. And basically, as Paul put it, here in Africa, the other alternative or the easy alternative is to attack the forest. So if you're not supplying people with energy due to drought, due to climate change, they will start attacking the forest. And what that means is that you're actually exacerbating the local desertification. You are contributing to more emissions, leading to, localized, deserts or desertification. So that is the situation in Zambia. In addition, the agriculture sector employs or contributes to about 60% of employment, in the country. And with the drought, the sector is heavily affected. It was really sad 2 years ago that, people could not grow anything. You would see animals die because the watering wells where they would go drink the water were dry. So, and this topic is very, very important, and it couldn't have come at a better time than this one. Now, adaptation to climate change or resilience to climate change, because climate change is here to stay. So now, moderator, just, show my slides so that, we can really give context to the topic, that we're looking at today. Do you want to share my few slides? Or do you want me to share from here?
Professor Alec, you are mute. You please unmute yourself, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I can see my slides. Yeah. So yeah, let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So I think it's better we are all, on the same page. What is it that we're talking about? So we're talking about climate change. But what is climate change? So climate change refers to the long-term shifts in weather conditions. It is measured by changes in climatic variables, like temperature, precipitation, and wind. So these changes over, a long time in these climatic variables, actually gives us what we call climate change. Next slide. So as you can see, and when I'm teaching my students, I like, making it clear to them that climate change is actually natural. Climate change is a natural phenomenon. However, over the past 200 years, this change has been enhanced by human activities or anthropogenic activities, and hence the problems that we're seeing today, because we have enhanced this change. the way God created it, I mean, the change was natural. But because of our activities, we've actually enhanced this change by increasing more emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Basically, as a result of our livelihoods, our comfort zones have actually led to the problems that we're having today. Next slide. Yes. So as I said, climate change is a natural effect, the natural greenhouse effect. But it's just that it has been enhanced by our activities. Our emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere have actually increased the amount of, or the layer of blanket of greenhouse gases, in the atmosphere, and hence the problems that we're seeing here. Hence the effects of either, extreme droughts or extreme weather events such as floods. Zambia is a landlocked country, unlike Sierra Leone, where my colleague Paul is coming from. So we don't usually experience a lot of flooding. What we experience mostly is drought. Next slide. Yes. So these are just some of the impacts of that enhanced greenhouse effect. The more greenhouse gases we pump into the atmosphere, the more we're having these impacts. And these include stronger storms, the flooding, the melting of ice. For those countries with ice. But in our case, we are seeing a lot of disease vectors that we're not seeing before as a result of the warming. The warming has actually contributed to a lot of diseases. In addition to drought, in addition to local desertification, we are seeing vectors that we never saw before. And this is an indication of something happening, which is climate change, because these vectors are now thriving under the new environment that we're creating as human beings. Next slide. Yeah. So, I mean, as I indicated, climate change is with us. So what do we need to do? There are basically two policy responses that we need to do. At the international level, it's mitigation, and that's what the Paris Agreement is all about. We're trying to reduce the global warming to 2 degrees, or better still 1.5 degrees below the pre-industrial levels. But at a local level, because that's a global level now, as Paul put it, climate change is felt much as we see it at the global level. The real effect, is at local level. How do we respond to climate change? So this is where we need to adapt. We need to live with it. So what is adaptation? Climate adaptation involves making proactive structural or behavior adjustments to cope with the physical impacts of the change. And examples would include the building of flood defenses, the coming up of drought-resistant crops like here in Zambia, where the temperatures are becoming warmer and warmer. So the old crop varieties are not surviving. So we need to come up with crops that are resistant to drought. So that's one form of adaptation. And when we talk about adaptation, what time frames are we looking at? We're actually looking at a short-term to long-term, and is often reactive to recent events or anticipatory or modeled risks. So what about resilience? Resilience is a more broader term. It's climate adaptation quite all right, but it's a bit more broader. It's usually the ability for systems to bounce back from disruptions. So in terms of time frame for resilience, it's actually long term. So it's a bit more holistic, It's almost the same as climate change, but it's just that it's more holistic. So let's go to the next slide. Yes. So now the core challenge, and why now we need to look at the behavior aspects. We need to zero down at a local level. We could have infrastructure quite all right, but infrastructures alone with climate change is not enough. Yes, engineering can solve some problems, but it only does half of that. It solves half of our problems. Technologies exist, but adoption rates remain very, very low. And that's where the behavior aspect comes in. So resilience requires sustained human behavior change. We need to change, in terms of our behavior. We could have infrastructure quite all right, but we need to embrace these infrastructures. Next slide. So what are the behavior pathways? So these are decisions and actions which individuals do make in order to reduce climate risks. So these range from daily habits to one-time major investments, and the shift from reactive coping to actually being proactive. You can't just wait and say, no, I'll respond when there will be a drought. No. You need to be proactive. You need to anticipate. No, we now know that climate change is with us. So anytime we could have a drought, anytime you could have a drought, you could have a flood. So you need to be prepared. So in terms of drivers, it's actually shaped by psychological, social norms, and institutional trust. Next slide. So then, why do we fail to adapt? Well, there are so many reasons why we fail to adapt. We prioritize today's comfort over tomorrow's. We think tomorrow will be like today, not knowing that climate change can strike at any time. Also, we are so biased that we believe that disasters will not happen to me, but they will happen to others, which is a misconception. We also prefer familiar routines even when they are risky. And also we view climate change impacts as far away in time as opposed to it being with us now. Next slide. Yes, so these behavior pathways actually need to be at an individual level. So we need to transition, for instance, to smart water saving and energy efficient habits. So as I indicated in Zambia, where the punishing drought, where even myself, where I live, I would ensure that I have a bag of, firewood at home because we needed to cook. I'm a climate change expert, quite all right, but I had no alternative but to buy charcoal or firewood, which is not good. But you see, if you don't give people an alternative, they will have no choice but to go back and attack the forest. And by so doing, they will be contributing to what? To climate change, because they will actually reduce the potential of that forest from acting as a carbon sink and also emitting the carbon that would have been stored in those trees. There's also, risk mitigation. We can, work on that at an individual level by doing what? Purchasing insurance and retrofitting our homes against either floods or fires. We also need to create evacuation plans and stockpiling of survival supplies. So these are some of the behavior change or responses that we can take at an individual level. Next slide. What about at a community level? That was at an individual level. So at a community level, we can share local information, local climate change information with, for instance, neighbors. That would be very, very helpful. So this is one way of behavior, change. Organizing local seed banks or community-led, activities. It's always, most of the time, it's good to hear from a neighbor's experience as opposed to hearing from someone else who you don't know, because you take it as fiction. But if you hear it from your neighbor who you live next door with, it will carry more weight. It will help you change your behavior as well. Next slide. I think I've got one or two more slides, then we can discuss. So what about the nudges, the changes? Choice of architecture for resilience. We can enroll citizens in flood insurance programs. We can make risk data highly visible via simple, color-coded maps. We can also be sending text alerts, as well as simplifying the paperwork needed to get, for instance, green adaptation subsidies. Next slide. Yeah, the power of peer influence, as I said, showing people that most of their neighbors already retrofitted or have already made changes would actually be, a more powerful tool to influence people to behave in a way that will try to, help them adapt to climate change. Also using local leaders instead of bringing in people from outsiders. It's difficult to understand someone coming from India come and explain about climate change to a person in Zambia here, because they will say, oh, no, that one, is from that other side. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But if you use your local, leaders, it will make a big, big difference. I think that was my last slide. Just next, let's see. Yeah. So in Zambia, in terms of what we're doing, in terms of responding to climate change really is affecting us. It's affecting our economy, because as I said, our agriculture is rain-fed. And you can imagine what that does when there's a drought. You can imagine what, energy crisis we go through when our dams are dry. So what are we doing? So one of the issues which, and I chair, that committee is the carbon, the DNA, is we've come up with a carbon market framework, which is trying to attract investment in alternative, sources of energies in Zambia. Right now, we've signed a MOPA, or Mitigation Outcome Purchase Agreement, with Norway, where we're trying to generate 300 megawatts of electricity, just to caution, the challenges that we have whenever we have a drought. And the investment that will go into that is, around 300, million US dollars. So the government doesn't have that kind of money, but through the carbon financing, we're going to attract that kind of financing. And of course, we've got a lot of stuff, carbon projects, that are being distributed within the communities, just to cushion the community from the adverse impacts of climate change. So the examples which Paul gave also really applies to Zambia, although Paul is, Zambia is a landlocked country, but in terms of the lessons that Paul shared, they also apply to Zambia. So I think, Mr. Moderator, let me end here, then we can have a discussion looking at the time, available today. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Alec. So very interesting. So if I can understand, Professor Paul was coming from micro to the policy formulation, and you very clearly explained the macro and then to the national level implication of it, and then also towards the global implication, not only the problem level, but also what can be the solution matrix and how that matrix can be structured towards the people's benefit as well as the policy framing in the confluence of the climate acclimatization. So there are multiple questions I can see from the audience, but before going to the questions and the audience, I have something unique to discuss with all of you. There was a statement came from Dr. Paul and Dr. Ali that when 25 years, nearly 30 years back, we are coming together, and that time we are the young boys, now we are the big boys. And yes, you guys are really big boys, managing the whole nation, I should say, not only your nation, but for the adjacent nation as well. But the interesting story over here is that you three were together in the Educational Institute in Netherlands, if I'm not wrong, and Sharnava is here. So I think you three should have a hug together, because this is a unique opportunity. I can feel this thing because we are also different parts of the world after studying, and Sarnava is just my younger brother. So I don't know how I can thank you to accept the invitation from Sharnava to be here. So Sharnava, first of all, I'm opening the platform for you. I think you were the right person because you pulled the best two person over here from two different corners of the globe, audience and the podium for you, Sharnava.
Thank you, Biplabda. Thanks a lot. Hi, Paul. Hi, Alec. It's a good opportunity to meet.
Okay, since
At least we are seeing you
Biplav
guys.
has brought this issue, I would like to inform you all, the participants, that this particular session, the fourth session, was basically all the sessions have technical and non-technical parts. So there are some concept notes preparation, announcement flyer preparation, everything is done. These are actually done by Sphere India Academy and Sphere India, and Nupur is the key person for all these things. And for arranging the guest speakers, moderators, all these things are done by the collaborators, other collaborators. So in this particular session, there was Noirita Foundation and Bong Projukti International Foundation, International Private Limited. So these two, they actually took the responsibility, and Sharnabho uh, took the responsibility of organizing the guest speakers, Paul and Alec, and Biplab on behalf of uh, Noirita Foundation. Biplab, he himself became the moderator, and today's session is this way it has been arranged. So now, Biplab, please continue, and Sharnavo, you please give your thanks to Alice and Paul after Biplab finishes.
Yeah. Thank you, Arjuna.
I don't have anything. Sorry.
Okay.
I am again muted.
Okay. Now we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sharnavo, I am again opening the audience and the podium for three of you. Please have a hug. Please have a hug, three of you guys.
No, yeah, Alec
I
and
mean,
Paul, both thanks a lot for joining the session. It was really a pleasure to have you all, both of you, on this podium. And thanks for sharing your experiences. And we sure will be continuing this journey further. So I think there will be much more opportunities coming soon where we can collaborate further. Looking forward to it, man. Thank you. Thanks, both of you.
Thank you, Papan. Yeah.
Bye.
thank you, Papan. I should say we were not
Thanks.
only in the
Thank
same
you so much.
university, we actually sat in the same class.
Yes, we
Thank you so
were.
much.
Thanks a lot.
Alec and Paul, very interesting thing I like to share with you both also, what you might not be knowing about Sharnava.
Yeah.
Sharnava, I have seen Sharnava from the standard one.
Oh, really?
And he and his brother was part of our family, and we all grew up together in the same scout group, started our career from the he was started at the age of 5 and the scout group, and
Okay.
then I saw his growth. The statement you made that we were young boys, now we are big boys, yes, you guys are real big boys. And Sharnavo, even though he might be shorter, but he's a very big guy now. He's designing the air quality program for 7 states of India. And in
Wow.
Gujarat, he is advising the government of Gujarat to be net zero. It's a very, very big thing. I think Sharnava deserves a clap over here because he is really doing the theory of our today's talk in reality. And he is doing with the government, with the policymaker, with the community, with the worst thing was the corporate in India. So that he has
Mm.
done. So I think you guys are always welcome to India and have a home in Calcutta, have a home in Gujarat. I am from Gujarat,
Thank you.
and I'm in western part of India. He's in eastern part of India, but you are home. Now, shooting starts, question starts. Okay, brother, ready?
Sure.
So I am inviting all of my audience today to shoot your question with raising your hand. So we can take question one after another. And it is open to all, everyone. We have enough time, 30 minutes we have in front of us. We can take as many questions as you like. But when you're asking the question, be very specific. A, what is the question? And to whom you are asking? And what is the specific question point, such that the audience, everyone can understand well, as well as the speaker can answer them very well. It's open the audio, open podium. Audience, please go ahead. Raise your hand and ask the question. Or you can put in the chat also. I will pick up from chat. Any question? Any hands raising? Yes. Sahin Islam from Barik. Please go ahead.
From
After
Barsik.
that, we will take
Can
the
you hear
Hidul bhai.
me?
Yes,
Can
Sahin
you
sir,
hear
we can
me?
hear you.
Okay, thank you. Just already I mentioned in my question in the chat box. My questions to Paul, who present the first. Already through his presentation, he mentioned in his country intergovernmental climate mechanism already set up to contribute bigger sense for climate resilience. My question: how actually intergovernmental mechanism is functioning his country?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think that's an opportunity to speak a little bit about the presidential initiative on climate change, renewable energy, and food security. So at the moment, it is an initiative that is anchored within the office of the president. It's very easy to form an institution like that because if you want to make it more sustainable, then it has to go through parliament and it has to be ratified. But as a decree, it's also possible that the president can see a need and then create an office to address that need. Of course, we are all very concerned that if the current party leaves office, because we go through cycles of elections every 5 years, and actually we have one in 2028, then the next president might say this is not a priority. And such an important institution might just go with the existing system that lost the election. So there are conversations to have it strongly institutionalized, but this is still in the initial phase. But what is important is that it is creating an atmosphere where any president that comes after can see a precedent that works, and probably they will take also because of the value. So we did not have an interministerial coordination mechanism ever in this country. But of course, we all know that the silo approach to managing state is a problem. And think this has been communicated many ways. You've heard probably about the famous water, energy, food nexus concept. Others have talked about integrated sectoral management. Others even advise that we dissolve all sectors and just govern based on problems. Of course, that is more radical. But the value of it is that there are roadblocks sometimes. And this body, because it is anchored within the presidency, it has authority to convene, but also it has power to speak, as the president will put it. And so ministers, directors within ministries, and technical personnel can act when they hear that this is coming from the office of the president. I have seen actually we built this upon other models. In Uganda, they have it within the vice president's office. In Rwanda, it is also within the president's office. But here we try to keep it also within the president's office, and now looking at modalities to have it more sustainable. Another approach we are looking at is fund mobilization. So because it unblocks development finance, but also attract private sector investment, it is possible also to anchor like our energy programs and our climate action programs also within the office of the presidency with a project management or project implementation unit. And usually those projects span over a long period of time. So we are talking about 4 or 5 years projects. So even if the presidency ends today, the office might continue to run those projects, and once those funds have to be administered by that unit, it will be difficult for any government to close it. So briefly, this is what I can say in response to your question. But it also serves not only as a coordination mechanism between ministries, but also between development partners as well who work with those ministries. So international development partners also come on board, as well as the private sector.
Okay, thank you. That's great. This is highly important, actually. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Fantastic. Can I invite Tahidul bhai? Tahidul sir, can you ask your question, sir, please? Then I'll come to
Yes,
Anuruddha and then Rajani.
yes. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to ask the question. And this is a really a good discussion. I enjoyed. I listened to all the presenters' arguments and the information they provided. My quick question is that when we just think of climate change, the impacts, it is it's a very complicated situation because some of the problems are just happening from disaster impacts. Some are long term changes that we call climate change. Some are happening from the development gaps. So it is really complicated. And if we just put the scale issues in that, like El Nino and other big phenomenon, the major scale climatic phenomenon. So it will then make the thing more complicated. And in this particular background context, if we analyze or kind of try to understand the behavioral pathways to adaptation, if we break it down in a number of components, what should be the likely provisions or the aspects that the government agencies will adapt some or change some of their behaviors that will help the communities to adapt better? Is there anything that the NGOs could do? Is there anything that people could do? So there might be different tier of actions performed by different layer of institutions and also the government international bodies, UN bodies. So is there anything that we could just make a call towards this particular change or anything that we could just suggest, since at this moment the UNESCO is writing the global science, technology and policy report for the global communities, and it happens in every 5 years. So I basically want to emphasize that is there any options for AI, the technologies, the science that we have in hand could just play some roles with the help of some behavioral changes of the government or some other machineries that will help the communities to better adopt some pathways, some behavioral changes to settle with the conditions in a changing climatic context. Basically, this is a discussion. Maybe Biplab Paul could be. Maybe I could just ask this question to you. Thank you.
You're asking me or you're asking Paul, sir? Saidul bhai.
Basically,
I think we can both
I
take
know
it.
you have been working with science people and
Fine.
and the international fora. Maybe that is the other people also the best
No, I
presenters,
think
respected presenters.
I
Also just
think
share
this
their
question, you and me can talk any point of time, but we won't be able to have these luminaries later on. So I think I will pass the question to Alex sir now. Alex sir, can you pick up this question?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. I think it's clear that at the international level, there are a lot of efforts that are being done by, several UN organizations, and, the UNFCCC is one such organization that is trying to, do a lot under very limited, resource constraints, under, the prevailing geopolitics, now. The 1.5 degrees, target, by the year 2100 and net zero, targets by, the middle of the century is one such, work which the international community is doing. But then, as you rightly put it, I think we need behavioral change at a local level. For instance, if we are going to reduce, erosion, at the local level as a result of, too much rain, through flash floods, we need to realize that we need to protect, for instance, wetlands. That is a behavior change at a local level that tries to, make, you adapt to adverse impacts of climate change, because the impact is with us. So you need to live with it. You need to stop cutting trees to reduce those flash floods, if you've got too much rain. So there's a lot that we need to do at the local level. But, for individuals, they also need help from governments. They need a lot of, sensitization that, this method of, agricultural practice is not helping now with climate change. You do this, conservation agriculture. Drought is with us. if you continue with the traditional way of growing crops, it's not going to work. With, amidst the limited water supply that we have, try this method of agriculture. So really government can come come in hand, at a local level. So I think that's what I can say, the behavior change really has to be inculcated even in the school curriculum, so that as kids grow up, I mean, we just said, me, Paul, and, Papan were small boys 30 years ago, but now we're policymakers, So these ones that are growing up, that are in school, will soon be policymakers. So we need that to be inculcated in the school curriculum also, so that when they grow up, I mean, they will be able to adapt. The generation will be resilient to climate change. So I think for now, that's what I can say. I mean, the government at the local level also can do a lot by imparting this knowledge to people, so that they know that this impact is with us and it's not going anywhere soon. We have to live with it. So those will be my submissions, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right, Alik. And I've tried to share my slide. So sometimes we talk about behavior change as if it is something new we have to do in response. But these are actually things that are happening. Yeah. Alik mentioned during his presentation earlier that you can invest in technology, but that's not enough. It's not enough. Technology is just one of those elements that are critical, or that is critical. I give you from the perspective of the work we do as an NGO. I told you earlier that we build resilient systems around decentralized renewable energy. Only 5% of our rural community have access to electricity, any form of electricity. And if you want to improve that, most people will say, okay, then connect them to the grid. But that grid is expensive to build, to take to rural areas. And so decentralized forms of energy supply, they are quick. And this also needs behavior change. It's a socio-technical imaginary. You need to communicate this at the policy level, and people in policy need to understand that as much as you talk about access and grid connectivity is good, but it is difficult to do and expensive to do, and there are cheaper options. So we bring in policy to advocate that. Also very important that we try to communicate this now with the position in the presidency, for the presidency to understand that there are some actions that are needed by government to attract investment for renewable energy deployment. So can we have tax waivers, for example, on renewable energy products that makes the product cheaper and makes the market interested to operate in Sierra Leone? Those are behavioral changes. Those are it can force behavior change at the policy level. But then when you deploy those solutions in the communities, you need to innovate. You need to train people to understand that this is not grid electricity that is unlimited. It is a 1 kilowatt or 2 kilowatt system that is designed for your house. So you cannot use more appliances, additional appliances. It has to work with the appliances that the system is designed for. That needs behavior change as well. And sometimes technology can actually force that behavior change, because we have deployed solutions in communities and we tell them, we train them, we give them the overview of the system, and we tell them use it with only this amount of appliances because the system is designed for the appliances. But the moment we leave, because it is a productive use of energy, they increase on the number of gadgets to increase their revenue streams. And what happens? The system shuts down. So now we have systems in place, inverters in place that trips on their own. So when the moment you overload it, it goes off. But also you have a pay-go system that some companies are coming up with now to force behavior change for them to pay for the systems where payment is required if it is not grant financing. So all of these elements have to be taken into consideration, either to force behavior change or to support behavior change in itself. And then you mentioned also whether the value of science and AI, and this is also something I come to. We are all coming from research and academia, and I always say that for science to find its place in this discussion, we have to be clever how we communicate as researchers, as scientists, for public policy and practice. Because sometimes we tend to write for ourselves. Sophisticated reports, sophisticated publications that are difficult or even attractive to read for people in policy or people in practice. So that communication is very important, how science communicates to practice and policy. And lastly, AI, of course, is very useful, I would say, because now with AI, you can actually scroll around the world and see what best practices exist to adapt in your local context. So yes, definitely, we can use those tools as well. Thank you.
Fantastic. Time is short. Rajani has two questions. Quite a long question. I will ask him to come very precisely one question to Mr. Paul and one question to Dr. Ali. So Rajani, what question do you like to start and be very specific to the question?
Dr. Paul, I don't know if it's my line, but I can hardly hear you.
Yes, voice was breaking a bit.
Yeah, the voice is breaking. Yeah.
Noise is coming. Is it audible?
No, I think we lost him.
Yeah.
Can someone, does someone know what he was saying and we could transpose or something? Or maybe the person who asked the question can ask directly.
Yeah, I
we
think
lost
what Biplab was trying to say, there is one question from Mr. Rajkumar Jani. So he is basically saying that why don't you propagate alternative fuels like biogas or biomass-based pellets, etc. Because there are certain similar activities and practices in Ghana and Cameroon. So have you thought of it?
Yeah. I think that is for me, right?
Yeah, maybe I can go first. Yeah.
Please.
So through my work with these carbon markets, biogas, yeah, I mean, like in Zambia where I come from, in fact, my research institute was the first one to roll out biogas technology, to try to light schools that did not have electricity. So initially, and again, this is where the behavior change aspect comes in. We rolled out a lot of these systems in schools, and schools started benefiting from, the home economics. The girls would cook, and also the effluents, they would use it for their gardens. It worked very well. But then the problem was the expectation by these schools that the research institute is going to maintain them, So again, that's where the behavior change aspect comes in, and sustainability became an issue. They thought it was our thing and not theirs. So whenever they had an issue, they would call us and say, "Oh, your system is not working. Please bring us a pipe," So this is where the education aspect needs to come in and say, this thing is yours. We've just helped you to acquire it, have it, So in terms of posterior, it belongs to yours. So look after it like it's your own thing. And this is where most of the donor projects fail, it would perform when the project is too, active. The moment a project comes to an end, posterior, it will just die, because of the behavior change again, the anticipation that, oh, that is for Dr. Paul's project. That is, Swanab's project, and it's not ours. So I think the mindset, really, we need to work on our people's mindset. And this is not different from, climate change. We really need to, hit on the mindset aspect.
Yeah.
Yes, Ali, you are right on the money. This is actually a problem that many times donor-funded projects, we get a very fantastic infrastructure, but then there is nothing urgent to continue that. There is no maintenance, nothing happens after that. So everything is lost.
Exactly.
We have seen too many such examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Sierra Leone, this is what we have done. So most of the solutions we deploy, we have the technology. We have the technical capacity within the organization to do it, but our technicians don't do the deployment. So what we do, we involve the private sector. So when you involve the private sector, you are opening up new markets for them. And they are interacting, even if you are getting grant finance, you are paying the private sector to do it. So when we deploy solutions like the solar home systems with refrigeration, we ask for a warranty on all the products. That helps with sustainability. But also we pay for 2 to 3 years for O&M checks and services within the project life. This also we learned from India, by the way. This model we picked from India, from Selco Foundation. So we bring in the private sector, we open up a market for them, and then we open up interactions between the market and directly with the private sector. And this is helping. So recently, we got a project to deploy 10,000 LPG canisters, these 6 liter canisters, to 10,000 beneficiaries, most of them women. Of course, you know, in Africa, probably Alik also will testify that most of the cooking is done by women. And it's not because men don't want to cook. You and I, Alik, when we were in Delft, we used to cook our food, right?
Precisely.
I stayed in Europe for up to 20 years and I cooked throughout. I came back to Sierra Leone and I stopped cooking.
Yeah, same.
It's because of the fuel and the technology that is used for cooking. So when cooking has dignity, it's clean, men like to cook also. So we are distributing 10,000 canisters, but we are not doing it as a government or as an NGO. We are bringing in the private sector. We are buying the canisters from the private sector, and then we distribute based on their distribution outlets. So some communities are not benefiting because the distributor does not have distribution outlets, but we tell them that this is a new market for you, and it's opening up new markets for them. So by the time we finish distributing 10,000 canisters, we are not only increasing access to LPG, which is an alternative form of cooking, better than charcoal and firewood, but we are also opening up new opportunities for the market, and that interaction also between the private sector and the market. So this is also, and also behavioral changes involved. Before we did that, we had some, because we now have our national clean cooking strategy, which we also led greatly to develop. We talked to communities, and some of them don't want to move from traditional firewood cooking to LPG, as good as it is. Women tell you that when I cook with firewood, the food tastes better than if I use LPG, even without trying it. So there is all of that needs to be considered into context. Yeah, thank you.
Paul, actually, there are 3 questions. Basically, one from Mr. Rajani and 2 from Mr. Jahangir Alam of Barsik, Bangladesh, and 1 from Sarnago. So, if Biplab, your mic is not repaired, I believe. Still, it has problem.
I have been warned that time is short. It is the last point I have to close down because then Sphere India will take over from that point. Okay. So all of you who have the questions, we have the email IDs of both Professor Paul and Professor Ali. You can send
Biplab, your voice is breaking.
Hello.
Your voice is breaking. Your audio is not yet fixed.
Can you hear me now?
Fix your audio.
Maybe audio is not working properly.
Mr. Jahangir, I think you can move and ask the question.
So there seems to be a lot of disturbance from your end. We are not able to hear you at all. So I think, as you were also saying, in interest of time, maybe we can take this as last question, and then we can also look at other questions we have received in the chat, those which have not been answered, and maybe we can kind of get in touch with the panelists and get their responses to those questions. So maybe Zangir sir, I'll hand it to you for the last question. and then we can possibly conclude the session.
Can I ask this question?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you so
If
much.
you can also indicate who your question is.
My name is Jahangir Alu. I have been working with Barsik, especially I am working in Dhaka city with the urban poor people, urban settlement. I am looking the background of the Paul that there is the city, and so I want to know about the urban informal settlement who are migrated from the rural to urban due to the climate crisis. After come to the urban areas, they are affected by the climate crisis also. They become more vulnerable. And my question is, what is the situation of the urban poor people and how they are coping with the new climate crisis in urban areas? If you tell me, I'd be very glad to learn and learn from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Zahagi. If I pronounce the name correctly, forgive me if I don't. But yes, the background you're seeing is Freetown. This is the capital of Sierra Leone. This is our city. It's a mountainous area, as you would see. A lot of deforestation. When I left to study in the Netherlands in the year 2000, this is 26 years ago, that background, the hill you're seeing there was all green. It was all forested. The city was very small, just on the coast, and then that background was all beautiful forest. I came back and I saw a shock of my life. The forest was gone, and development has gone up the hill. I live there myself. I'm speaking actually from home, so I live now up in those hills. I am part of that destruction. Yes, but you are right. So what is happening? We have people who have moved from coastal areas, the sinking islands. I mentioned Yeliboya, Plantain Island, Banana Island. These are islands that have rich heritage. You probably would want to read a little bit about Sierra Leone. The capital, Freetown, is for a good reason. When slavery was abolished, this capital became the hub for returned slaves, and this is why it's called Freetown. And those islands I mentioned were transiting points for slave trade. So these are natural heritage sites, and we are losing them now. They are sinking. And what is happening to the populations? They are moving to the city. And when they come, they don't have resources to buy land like I did after 20 years abroad up in the hills. They stay in the coastal communities. And they are continue to be vulnerable there, because as we destroy the forest in the background, you have a lot of erosion. Freetown never suffered floods, never before. But now every monsoon period between June to September, we have floods downtown. And because these people are living in the low-lying areas by the coastline, those sediments that come and the waters that come flood their settlements, the shanty houses. So we've also taken that into consideration, and some of our interventions are targeting them, both on financial resilience and also alternative livelihoods. We are working at the moment in 6 of those communities. The names here, we have Olwaf, we have Poti, we have Rukupa, we have Mabela. These are all slums or low-income areas in the city. We provide also them with solar home systems, because even in the city where access is somewhere around 78%, you still have people who do not have access to the grid. Or when they have access, the quality and the quality of electricity that gets to them is so low they can't even run their appliances. So we are providing them also with solar home systems. Recently, we deployed 40 solar home systems in those slums and provided them also with refrigeration to improve resilience, to give them alternative livelihoods, and to support them for their economic well-being as they live in those difficult terrains. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
so much, sir. I think in interest of time and the technical difficulties, may I now take over for Biplab sir to conclude the session? Okay, great. Thank you so much, sir. Maybe I'll just take this opportunity to formally conclude the session and also convey a vote of thanks to all of the participants and the panelists who joined us. So this was very insightful discussion on building climate change resilience through behavioral pathways. And on behalf of Sphere India and our knowledge partners, PRISM and CARN-AP, and also our regional partners, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to our moderator, Mr. Biplab Ketnipal, and our esteemed speakers, Dr. Paul and Dr. Alec, for sharing their valuable perspectives and enriching today's discussions. We also take this opportunity to thank all participants for your patience and understanding, especially regarding the technical difficulties we experienced during this session. And we truly appreciate your continued engagement and support for these initiatives. And I can clearly see that today's discussion, it has reinforced the importance of integrating behavioral insights into the climate action, especially in the on-field work that the organizations and you guys are doing. And so this has been a very insightful discussion, and we'll also see if we've missed out on any questions or anything you want to ask the panelists, and we will try to kind of facilitate that maybe over emails going forward. So thank you once again for being part of this important dialogue. We really look forward to your participation in the upcoming session. So as Aniruddha already mentioned that the next session will be on 20th of June. We will be together finalizing the theme for the same based on what has emerged from these last 4 webinars, and we'll be sharing those details with you shortly. And I think in the meantime, if you have any inputs and feedback in terms of what thematic areas should be covered in these discussions, that you can share those on the group or with me or Anirudh sir, and we will be happy to take those up in the subsequent sessions in the series. So with that, I thank you everyone for joining us, and with that, we can formally close the session. So thank you so much, everyone.
Everyone,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Jolly,
for having
thank
us.
you, Paul.
See
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Meet you again. Best of luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ali.
Bye.
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 Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Paul.
Thank you.
Papan, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. It's a nice opportunity to have all of you on board, and it's a good discussion.
Thank you. We're happy that you feel that way. Thank you very much. Thanks for organizing.